Excellencies, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Light for the World and myself, I am delighted to contribute to today's launch of the Bridging the Gap project via video message. I wish I could have joined you in person for today's very important event. Unfortunately, I am unable to do so due to other prior engagement requiring travel. Thank you for enabling me still to share few thoughts. Bridging the Gap is a long-awaited and a unique initiative. It is a collaborative partnership which will allow concrete country-level interventions to be complemented by global-level engagements to realize the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the Sustainable Development Goals. The CRPD and the SDGs are crucial instruments in the fight for equality and human rights for all persons with disabilities everywhere. That's why it's important for the Bridging the Gap project to work in synergy, aiming to contribute to the socio-economic inclusion, equality, and non-discrimination of persons with disabilities in low and middle-income countries. The lived experiences of persons with disabilities in countries like Paraguay, Ethiopia, Moldova, Nepal, and Jordan can serve as a strong basis to work on human rights indicators for measuring the SDG implementation and the quality of life of persons with disabilities. This, in turn, will contribute to our lobbying for better inclusive services and institutions in countries like Ecuador, Paraguay, Burkina Faso, Sudan, and my country, Ethiopia. Persons with disabilities are one of the largest minorities significantly overlooked in previous development discourse. They still face many barriers to leading independent and dignified lives. Women with disabilities in particular are at risk of systematic exclusion and discrimination. The World Report on Disability 2011 highlights this fact in its analysis. Yet, the recommendations section does not contain any reference to gender or women and girls with disabilities, nor does it recommend that cross-cutting attention be paid to gender disparities or ending violence against women and girls with disabilities. This mismatch in focus between problem and solutions is a serious challenge. Poor and lack of implementation of our guiding statutes, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, is another challenge that we need to address as soon as possible. The CRPD, having 172 state parties so far, lags behind in terms of implementation, and reports are long overdue. Likewise, the SDG implementation hardly involves persons with disabilities and their organizations. The stakeholder group of persons with disabilities, which is the group representing persons with disabilities at the high-level political forum for the SDG monitoring and review, has recently released a report examining the participation of persons with disabilities in this process. The report reaffirms that while organizations of persons with disabilities actively seek opportunities to engage with governments, many are being turned away. Even when wider civil society organizations are invited to participate, meetings and documents are often inaccessible for persons with disabilities. This signals policy commitments such as the SDGs and the CRPD are necessary instruments, but they're not sufficient alone to transform reality. Another critical challenge the disability movement faces is lack of disability disaggregated data. Though the international disability movement as well as the international community calls for disaggregation of data by disability, it is still rarely collected at national and local levels. We, in the disability movement, should learn lessons from other movements like gender and engage in generating our own data instead of waiting for others to step up the game. We should not let the data debate frame our movement. We should use our experience of influencing gathered during drafting the CRPD and proactively apply it again in framing the data debate. The absence of disaggregated data on disability must no longer be used as an excuse for excluding persons with disabilities from accessing basic services like education, health, employment, and others. It's evident that there is also a clear disconnect between policy aspirations and budgetary allocations on disability and development. A recent study revealed that only 1% of the total budget for humanitarian aid is used for supporting disability-inclusive humanitarian actions. Similarly, research by the International Disability and Development Consortium IDDC with Light for the World and Open Society Foundation has found out that inclusive education is severely underfinanced by national and global donors. My country, Ethiopia, for example, only uses 0.2% of its total budget for education for inclusive education. According to Article 32 of the CRPD, international cooperation should take into consideration disability inclusion while financing development. The Addis Ababa Action Agenda also contains 6 explicit references to persons with disabilities and disability. Such explicit references lay the ground for lobbying for increased financing of disability inclusion at all levels. I strongly hope Bridging the Gap project provides countries with advice in disability budgeting and influence development partners to clearly allocate resources for disability inclusion. A coordinated implementation of the SDGs in a manner which is CRPD compliant, supported with quality disaggregated data on disability, and adequate financing is necessary to transform the lives of the 1 billion persons with disabilities. I would like to conclude my message by calling upon each of you to contribute your level best to realize our dream of an inclusive society where all persons with disabilities, regardless of age, gender, or kind of disability, as well as their parents and families, enjoy improved living conditions and exercise the same rights and have access to the same services and opportunities enjoyed by all other citizens. It's a pleasure again to be working with you all, and I wish you have a very successful launch today. Thank you.